Let's get into today's episode of Why We Succeed.
What is going on, everybody? It's your man, Jay Immanuel, and we are back for another episode of Why We Succeed. Today, I have a very, very special guest joining me on the podcast, none other than my girl, Tolu Frimpong. How you doing today?
Hey, Jay, I'm good. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm doing amazing. I am so honored to have you on the show. You're a money coach, a finance content creator. Yo, I want to dive into your story, hear about how your journey started, how you got to where you are today. But there's one question I always like to open up with when it comes to my guests, which is, how do you personally define success?
Oh, that's a really good question. Success. I think success is being the best version of yourself. So I don't think success should be measured rather by achievements and accomplishments or statuses or things like that. I think success is you being the best version of yourself every single day. So waking up with purpose and achieving that purpose throughout the day and going to bed content, knowing that you've showed up as the best version of yourself and given the day your best. And I think that's success to me.
I love that. So the follow-up question that I typically ask is, has that always been your definition of success?
Oh, no, definitely not. I'd say growing up, I've always thought of success as people that are rich. So people that are rich are successful. And I guess they are to an extent successful. But if you use that as the benchmark for measurement, it makes you feel inadequate in your own life. So
Right.
I think if you just think, oh, they're successful because they're rich and I'm not rich, therefore I'm not successful, it makes you feel less about yourself. So I think for me, I had to come to that realization that actually, no, I'm successful because I show up as the best version of myself every single day and I commit to whatever task I have at hand. So
I love that.
It's definitely changed over the years for sure.
I'm curious, do you know what the catalyst was for that change? Was there something that happened that made you shift your mindset? Maybe somebody kind of planted that seed?
I think it's been a lot of self-work. So because I've read a lot of books so over the years, I started reading like loads of personal development books about mindset and all of those things. I think all of that, plus conversations with friends, plus me getting outside of my usual circle of friends and networking and getting around people that are kind of where I want to be. It's learning how they've been able to get there is because they've had that success mindset. So it's like, okay, let me adopt the mindset of the greats. And it's been a journey, but that's kind of how I've done it.
I love that. And like I mentioned earlier, you're a finance coach or a money coach, right? Is it money coach or finance coach? Which do you prefer?
I mean, it's both. You can use it interchangeably. Some people say finance coach, some people say money coach. I like to say money because everyone knows money, whereas finance, you might not necessarily.
It's a little bit more nebulous. Like it's like when it's money, it's like, oh, okay, we know we're talking about dollars and cents, baby. Like it's no confusion.
There you go. Exactly. So I just go with the money coach because everybody knows what money is. It's universal, right?
Yes, it is. It is. And the reason why I bring that up is because I'm curious, were you a money coach first and then you got into content creation? Which one came first for you?
Oh, no, definitely. It was the content creation first.
Okay.
So my journey if you had told me 5 years ago I was going to be a money coach today, I would not have believed it because
So what were you doing 5 years ago?
I was in a lot of debt 5 years ago. Like my finances were in disarray. So for me to go from there to now helping people with their money is just so random. It's so crazy, but that's life. It just throws you different kind of curveballs and you kind of have to roll with it. So now I definitely started off in the content space first. And then, as I was sharing my journey online and sharing what's worked for me, it kind of happened as a natural progression that people were asking me to kind of help them to do the same thing.
So tell me the story of what made you decide to share your journey, right? Because sometimes, the first thing I think we can all acknowledge is that there's a lot of people around the world in debt, right? And finances is one of the more intimate things in our lives that most people aren't really trying to let everybody know. Like, this is what my financial situation looks like. So to be transparent about your finances, that's a big step. What led to that? What was the story behind it?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I don't know if I should go into my debt story now, but it was basically when I was in a lot of debt and I was able to subsequently pay that debt off. That's me literally like fast tracking through what happened. I was in debt and I paid it off, right?
We got the Cliff Notes version.
Exactly. So because I was able to pay off all that debt, in order to do that rather, I had to learn a lot about money. So I had to learn about budgeting. I had to learn about what my financial spending triggers were. I had to learn all about basically money management and why I was in the position I was in the first place. And that kind of led me down a rabbit hole of me watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, reading books. And I just learned so much, and I was able to pay off my debt. And I was like, okay, I have all this information. I have all this knowledge. I can't just keep this to myself, because I know that even though when I was in debt, I didn't talk about it. Nobody knew my position. I know that I wasn't the only person, even though it felt like I was at the time. I can't be the only person to be in debt in the UK, right? So I'm like, okay, if I'm not the only person in this position and I've been able to figure out a way out, surely it's kind of selfish for me to just sort my finances out and not tell anybody else. So
Right.
it was kind of because of that, I just felt that conviction that no, I need to actually go and help people, because you don't go through these things just to go through them. Well, that's not my belief anyway. I believe that me going through that debt and having to figure out my finances was kind of a blessing in disguise, because it's like, okay, you've been through that, you've come out the other side, now you go and help somebody else get through that same thing. And that's kind of what it was that led me down that path. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did, because I wanted to know, like, what led you there, because opening up about your finances, that can't be easy, getting online, sharing your experience. And it sounds like, from what you just shared, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong,
Sure.
that you had the debt, then you got rid of it, and then you decided to share the things that you learned from that experience. It wasn't necessarily that you were actually going through the process of paying off the debt and filming it at the same time. It
No,
was like, okay, now I'm on the other end of this thing. Let me show y'all how it can be done.
absolutely. And you know what? If I could do it in reverse or go back in time, I probably would have documented my journey, because I feel like there's so much power in that sharing the journey. Because now, since I've joined the finance space and I've joined the debt-free community online, there's so many powerful accounts documenting their journey. And I feel like they have so much more weight behind them, because you get to see that transformation. You get to
Right.
see them start their account with £20,000 worth of debt, and you get to see the highs and the lows and the struggles and the reality of it. And it makes them so much more relatable. And so when they come out the other side, they have so much more weight. Because yes, I've also done the same thing, but I've done mine in secret. Whereas those people, they've done it in the public platform or public domain. And I feel like it's just amazing, to be honest. So I'm like, yeah, if I could do it again, I would have documented my journey and just shared it online. But
Nah, there's value, like you mentioned, from both perspectives. And the key thing is that you went through your experience, and there are things that you have to share that other people can't. And like you mentioned, there are some people who are documenting from the point of being in debt to getting out of it, and they have something else that they can provide to the audience. And I feel like each of you in that space is providing value to everybody that's tuning in. And that's really the key, is helping people.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with that being said, like, what appealed to you from the perspective of creating content? Like, how did that come about?
Oh my gosh. Do you know what? I've always been on Instagram. So I had a personal account at one
Okay.
stage. And after a while, I just stopped posting content, because I didn't like what it was doing to me, and I didn't like what social media does in general. I just felt like I don't want to be part of the problem. And to me, social media can be quite problematic, in that everybody just posts the best of their life.
The highlight reel, right?
Exactly. It's the highlight reel, right? So it's just like, oh, look at me and my family. Everything's all happy. We live a perfect life, and nobody's life is really perfect. So
No.
after a while, it just got to me, and I was like, no, I'm not going to be posting on Instagram just for the sake of it. So I stopped posting on my account. And actually, rewind.
Okay.
What really started, because now you're taking me back down memory lane, and
Yes.
really what really started my account was, I did a detox. I did a social media detox. So I took a 21-day break from social media, from Instagram, Twitter, even YouTube. I literally just came offline, came off WhatsApp. I don't know if you guys have WhatsApp in the US.
Yes.
But it's an instant messaging app. So I literally came off everything, and I was like, no, I just need a break. It was coming towards the end of 2018, and it was just too overwhelming. The pressures of social media and just always consuming content all the time that just makes you feel a certain way about yourself. Bearing in mind, at that time, I just come out of my debt situation, and I'm like, no, I don't want to end up back in debt, because I'm trying to keep up with what the Joneses are doing on Instagram.
Exactly.
So I just stepped away from it, and I was like, no, let me just concentrate on myself, concentrate on how I can get my side hustles up, because at the time, yes, now I'm debt free, but now there's other goals and financial goals that I want to achieve. And at this time, one of my biggest financial goals was I wanted to pay off my mortgage. That's since changed, but that was what I wanted to do at the time. And I know when you're in debt and you're paying down the debt, it's easy to kind of focus on paying down that debt because the stakes are high. But once you've paid off that debt and you're now pursuing other financial goals that are not as intense or like life or death, it's harder to stay the course. And I wanted to make sure I stayed the course. And that's why I was like, okay, no, let me document my financial journey online. Let me put it out there, and I'm accountable to social media. And then I have to actually achieve these goals that I've set out to do. So at the start, when I started my content sharing journey, it was quite for selfish reasons, actually. I was documenting my journey so that people can hold me accountable to my financial goals. And that's what I started doing. So I started just sharing my financial journey, me overpaying my mortgage at the time, me setting myself goals, content creation wise, me starting my blog, me starting, just documenting all the financial knowledge that I'd acquired over the years, the books that I had read, doing book reviews, and just literally sharing everything that I had learned. So that's kind of what made me start creating that content. And I just started. I bought a domain. I couldn't think of anything creative, so I just used my name. And I just started writing. I started writing about all the things that I learned. I wrote about my digital detox that I mentioned that I did, and I just started sharing all that content online. And that's literally how it started. And once again, I don't know if I've answered your original question.
You did.
Sorry, I talk a lot.
No, you did, because I want you're answering my questions because I'm wanting to know about your journey, your story. And each of those is a piece of that puzzle. And, even the thing when you did the rewind, it was like, hold on, no, it was actually because of the detox that provides so much more value, because a lot of times we have to get there. And like you mentioned, social media, if we're not using it, it will use us, and it will have a negative impact on us. And that's the one thing that I've had to come to learn, is that if I'm not using social media, then I really need to think about whether or not I want to hop on this app at this time. Because it's like, what other purpose am I there for if it's not adding some type of benefit, or it's not helping me to move forward in some form or fashion, right? Or I'm not helping other people, like you mentioned as well.
Exactly. Yeah, no, absolutely. Totally agree. And it can be a force for good, but it can definitely be a force for evil too. So
right. It's almost kind of like how they say you don't ever want to be idle. And I feel like sometimes we use these social media apps and these different tools idly, like in the sense of we don't really have a purpose for why we're on the app, just endlessly scrolling just because we can. So it's really important to really learn that, hey, you started because you were like, yo, let me step back. And being able to step back put you in a place where you could come back refreshed and come back with a purpose, really. Because that's essentially what happened, is you was like, okay, well, I'm using these things. It's not really being beneficial to me. Let me take a step back. And then when you made your return, it's like, okay, I'm here with the purpose of not just getting accountability for myself, which is important. I'm not mad at you for that. Because having that accountability is so key. But then, like you mentioned, just sharing everything that you could with other people to help them to get to a place where they're debt free as well. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. You explained what I was supposed to explain so well at the end. I kind of lost my line of thought, but you just brought me back, because that was what I was saying. That I came off for a while to kind of find myself, and then when I came back online, it was let me come back to this platform and actually bring some value. And that's why I hopefully did.
Yeah. And you've been doing that, and that's what it's all about. That is truly what it's all about. And that actually brings to mind, how did you come to the place where you're like, you know what, let me become a money coach? Like, how did you make that step from creating content to then becoming a money coach? What did that look like?
It happened quite organically, to be honest. So I wouldn't say I did anything. It just came to me. So I hadn't set out to be a money coach, but after a while, my DMs started getting full. I was getting messages, people saying, how did you do this? But how did you do that? Oh, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And while I love talking to people in the DMs, there's only so many people I can talk to all the time. And I have another friend who's actually in business, so totally different business, but she uses Instagram predominantly for her lead generation and gets most of her sales through Instagram. And she was the one telling me that you can't just be talking to these people in the DMs and giving them all this information for free, because they already get a lot of free content from you, from your YouTube channel, from your Instagram feed, from your blogs, etc. But at some point, if they want that additional one-to-one support, then you should start offering like a paid service. And I remember for a while, I kind of sat with the idea because I wasn't comfortable with taking money from people for information that I got for free. Why can't I give it to them for free? But after a while, I did come to the realization, actually, no, time is money. And at the end of the day, I need money. So I'm going to make money where I can. So yeah, I can't just keep working for free, which is what I was essentially doing for like the first couple of years. And after a while, I just announced it on my page that, yeah, if you want to work with me one-to-one, slide in my DMs or book yourself in. I added the Calendly link in my bio. And yeah, people just started booking themselves in there. And I remember for a while, I kind of felt very awkward about it because it's like, my background isn't in finance. My background is actually in marketing. So it's like that whole feeling like I shouldn't be telling people about money. Who am I to be telling them about money? Did kind of sink in, but then I just had to kind of put those thoughts behind me because I did have value to offer these people, and the testimonials that I've had subsequently definitely demonstrate that.
Right. So that's actually where I want to go next. You actually hit on two things that I want to talk about. The first thing is I want to talk about those beliefs of, am I equipped to do this? Am I qualified to do this? And similar thoughts. And then the second piece that I want to get into is making that transition to say, hey, you know what? I am offering enough value that people should be paying for what I'm sharing with them. So let's actually start with the first one. I know that, a lot of the people who are going to be tuning in watching this as new business owners, even as new content creators, they're going to have to deal with those questions of, why am I doing this? Am I qualified? What did that look like for you when it came to addressing those thoughts head on and overcoming them?
Yeah. So for me, it's, to be honest, if I'm being very honest with you, Jay, it's still something I'm still dealing with now. So I've been coaching one-on-one for nearly 2 years now, and I still have those moments. Like my husband's always having to talk me off the ledge. He's like, "No, babe, you can do this. You can do this." And I'm like, because my background isn't in finance, like I mentioned previously, and I don't have a qualification in financial coaching. There's not actually a qualification to be had, to be honest. If there was, I'd have it. But because that wasn't my background, I've always felt like, oh, who am I to be telling people about money? I'm not a financial advisor. But I have to remind myself that actually there's value in what I have to bring to the table, and the results speak for itself. And the experiences that I've had in terms of me being in debt and me subsequently paying it off, me now being able to pay down my mortgage, me start investing, I've learned a lot about finances over the years. So I need to be confident in my abilities to help somebody else to do the same thing. So it's an ongoing thing, let me not lie, but the more I do it, it's like you just have to keep working through it. And what you come to realize, or what I've come to realize actually since being in this finance space online and networking with other people doing similar things, is that I'm not the only one that feels this way. So many of us have those same stories that we tell ourselves, and we have those same struggles and those mind battles, but we just do it anyway. And so it's so funny when people come to me in my DMs or after I've done one of my Instagram lives, and they're like, "Oh, you're so confident, and I want to be more like you." And I'm like, be careful what you wish for, because listen, you don't know what it took for me to even tap that live button, but you just have to show up for yourself and just think about the higher purpose and the higher calling that you have. And it's like, I'm not just doing this for me, I'm doing this for somebody else. And just the more you do it and you see the results, the more it gives you confidence in what you're doing, if that makes sense.
Right. And, I think about when I've started new businesses, and especially things that are outside of what I went to school with, similar to you, especially when you're starting out, there's always that question of, can I get the results that people want? And I think that that's the main thing that has to be proven before we can build up that confidence, like you mentioned. Because first it's like, hold on, I know I want to be able to help people do this, but it's like, can I really do that? And then, like you mentioned, you work with people, you produce the result, and you're like, oh man, hold on, maybe I am qualified to like do this, even though I may not have this degree or, this certification. Like, I'm able to help people in this area. And I think that's the reason why it's so important to keep going. Like, I think sometimes people stop and they don't give themselves enough time to actually produce those results, right? And I mean, let's be fair too. Every time, we're not always going to produce the results that we want, right? We're not always going to be able to give our clients everything that they need. But I think that we're always able to deliver some form of value and produce some result that the client will be pleased with. And I think, and let me know your thoughts on this. How do you celebrate your wins, even the small ones? Is that something that you've learned to do along your journey?
Oh, absolutely. I did that a lot on my debt-free journey,
Mm-hmm.
particularly. It was the whole celebrating the small wins. I wouldn't say so much in business, actually, since I've started the coaching. I've
Mm-hmm.
never actually thought, let me sit down and celebrate it. I'm always thinking, okay, I need to get the next client, or I need to launch the next digital product, or whatever it
Right.
is. So, no, I wouldn't say in the business I've been doing that, but definitely on
Mm-hmm.
my debt-free journey, that was a thing that I really was big on doing, rewarding
Nice.
myself on the journey. And just to go back to the point you were just making a minute ago
Mm-hmm.
in terms of that, getting that confidence by working with people and getting that
Mm-hmm.
result for them. I think if you're not feeling confident in your ability to deliver, there's nothing wrong with doing it for free to begin with, because I definitely
Mm-hmm.
worked with clients for free at the
Right.
beginning while I was trying to get those testimonials and get those results and get that proof of concept. So I
Mm-hmm.
think to begin with, there's nothing wrong with doing that. And yeah, I definitely suggest do that, get that experience, even if it's
Right.
families or friends or whoever you can kind of use as a guinea pig to test
Yeah.
the method on. Do that and then kind of grow from there.
Yeah. And another thing that I will add, and just let me know your take on this, is I
Sure.
think when you're starting out, it's very important to make sure you don't set the bar of expectation too high when it comes to those results, right? So, like for example, if you're new to somebody is new to like money coaching or being a finance coach, right? To set out with the goal of like, I'm going to get my client completely debt free. Like that, that right there to start out is a bit much. But if you take it in small chunks and be like, I'm going to help them to be able to put a budget in place. Like they don't have one. That's a small win. You can say, hey, I took a person that didn't even know the importance of budgeting to
Mm-hmm.
now see the value in doing it. And now I've gotten them to not just create their first budget. That could be your first win. Then the second thing is I got them to do it consistently for a
Mm-hmm.
quarter, then 6 months. So that's one of the things that I think is important is not setting the bar so high, even though that may be the
Absolutely.
end goal. Like I want to help you to get out of debt, but recognizing that that can't be the first and the only measure of I got results from our clients.
No, absolutely. And I could definitely attest to what you said, because that's what I've done in my business. So
Mhm.
I work with people when it comes to budgeting and getting that money management system in place. I
Right.
don't really help them when it comes to investing. So once they get
Mhm.
to that stage, I can now refer them on to other colleagues that specialize in that area, because whilst I've started investing for myself,
Mhm.
I'm not an expert in that area yet. And I'm not confident enough to say, let me come and coach you and tell you what to do with
Right.
investing. And that's totally fine. You just have to work with clients where you are, because all you need is
Mhm.
basically to be a step ahead or a few steps ahead of them to
Yeah.
kind of help them to get to where you are. I don't
Mhm.
think that you need to be like, totally arrived for you to be able
Yeah.
to help somebody get results. You just need to be able to help them with a particular area. And like you said,
Mhm.
be realistic and set expectations and manage expectations. It's better to
Yep.
set the expectation here and then you come here, rather
Mhm.
than you set the expectation up there and you don't deliver on those
Right.
results.
Right. And I think when we look at it from the business perspective, that's why it's so important for, us as business owners to know what type of result we're trying to get for our client, because that will help us to figure out one, whether it's a reasonable expectation or result that we're aiming for. And
Mm,
then secondly, what clients to target. And to your point,
mhm.
if you're a step or two ahead, that's the main thing that you got to make sure, because you can add value if you're a step or two ahead of the person that you're working with. And as
Mhm.
long as you have some way of being able to determine that that person lacks some knowledge that you have, then it puts you in a position to be able to add value to them. And then you
Exactly.
just got to figure out how that ties to whatever it is that you're monetizing, whether it's a service or a product. If you are able to marry those two things, that's when you can begin to develop that confidence, because now you know, okay, I'm only working with people that don't know this thing that I know very well. And my whole goal is to help them to learn this thing and then be able
Exactly.
to produce this result. When you can do that, now you can be like, yo, I'm confident I can do this.
Mhm. Exactly. No. Yeah. Couldn't say it better myself.
Yeah, yeah, man, yo, I love that. So I want to go back to the second thing that I that you had mentioned earlier,
Sure.
which is getting to a place where you became comfortable accepting payment for your services. I know you mentioned that that was kind of tough. What did that look like? Tell us the story of when you were able to finally be like, okay, I feel good accepting payment. I'm okay with it. I think I actually deserve what I'm getting paid.
Yeah. Do you know what? I remember when I did the post on Instagram. So before that, I had worked with people
Mhm.
unofficially as their coach, kind of helping
Okay.
them get the transformation. So that was when I wasn't charging, right? So when I decided I'm going to make this a paid service, I did a whole Instagram post like, guys, I'm doing one-to-one coaching. Slide in my DMs if you want me to coach you, kind of thing. And then I had a few people book themselves in for discovery calls. So what I was doing
Mhm.
was a 30-minute discovery call where
Okay.
we kind of talk through wherever you are, and then I tell you if I can coach you based on what you've told me that you need.
Mhm.
And people book themselves in for the discovery call. So I had the first call, right? So
right.
we've had the whole conversation. We're going back and forth. I'm like, yeah, I can definitely add value to her. And then she asked me the price. What did I tell her? I said, I can do it for free. I'm like,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, she's asking me the price and I'm telling her I'll do it for free. Who does that? Well, I did that because
I've done that too.
Okay.
Like you're not alone. Like that, and that's and I think it comes down to, like, at least in my case, it's just that fear of being able to say, I charge this to do this. Because it's like, I've done it for free for myself, for other people. And it's like, oh, it feels weird to tell this person, like, now it's going to cost you X for me to do this for you.
Exactly. So, I remember, and it's so funny, because when I gave the call, I was telling my husband about it, and he was just like, wait, what? Why did you do that? I was just like, I couldn't bring myself to tell her a price. And he was like, what? But why? She obviously wanted to pay. So anyway, that call, I didn't ask for money. So then the next call that I had was probably like a day or two later. And then I was like, when it got to the end of the conversation, it's like, okay, let's close. How much is this? And I said a price, but again, it wasn't the price that I had planned for it to be. I went lower.
I've done that too.
He was like, yeah, sure. Paid straight after the call. And I learned a valuable lesson there, because I was like, she saw more value in me than I saw in myself. Yeah. And I didn't let that happen again after that.
Oh man, I promise you, I can relate to that. Like, I've been in a situation too where my situation was a little bit different from yours, because I actually got myself a little bit underwater because it was a project that a person wanted. It was a large scale project. And I thought that my low price, it wasn't what I would typically charge for the service. I'm like, they're probably not even going to accept a low offer for this work. So I threw this low number and they were like, yep, I'll take it. And I'm like, no, like I was expecting, I went in with the expectation that they couldn't even pay the low price. And I was totally wrong, because I ended up having to that's the price I gave them. So now I have to do this project. That was a lot of work. And I'm not, I think it was maybe like half of what I should have charged, because I'm thinking they can't afford it.
Exactly.
So I want to say that to everybody out there, like, don't assume you know what people can afford. Like, especially if it comes to your detriment, it's much better. You'll be much better off giving a person a price that's too high as opposed to a price too low, because that'll surprise you too. Because I've done it the other way, and I was like, oh man, like, yo, they'll pay that? Like, okay, like, man, we're on this.
I've done that with brand partnerships before, like me thinking that I'm putting a big number there. They're like, oh yeah, that's fine. I'm like, what?
He's like, hold on, should I back for more? Oh man, yo, that it's all part of the journey though, right? We start learning, like, you never know. Oh,
so
man,
so I learned a valuable lesson there, and it's all about basically you charge what you're worth and what you are happy to get paid. So don't undersell yourself just so that you can secure the client or secure the contract or whatever. Go with the price that you want to be paid, and if they can afford it, then they're for you, and if they can't, then that's not the client for you. So never sell yourself short. It's a lesson that I learned the hard way.
Right, I'm with you. And one of the lessons that I learned from a mentor is the importance of having like different packages, right? Because that's another way that you can begin to kind of test out what people are willing to pay for your service. Because if you got like this is what the mentor said. And when I first heard it, I was like, man, I don't know if I could do that. Like, you got the lower price, right? And then you have the one that's in the middle that's maybe like double what the lower one was. And then the high ticket offer is like 10 times what the lower one is.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, what? Like, that can't possibly work. It works. You will be surprised that the majority of people, because this is what I did, and even the mentor was telling me he did the same thing. Get on the call and be like, yeah, I have this offer, talking about the basic ones, but don't worry about these other two. They'd be like, no, what are those other two?
I want to know about
right. And it's like, oh, hold on, you want to know about those expensive ones? And they're like, yeah, what are in those? And then you show me like, yeah, I'll take that one right there. Like, oh,
I don't want to be the cheapskate. Why do I have to get the budget package? Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So,
there must be a science to that, actually.
It must be. It's so interesting, and because I still don't know the psychology. I was actually talking to a guest, and I got to get this book where it's like the psychology of selling, and it talks about like how psychology plays a role in the way that we sell things, the way people are willing to buy stuff. And I'm like, yo, I got to read that book, because there has to be some type of science to these different methods. Like,
there's psychology in marketing, and there is psychology in money, so there must be psychology in sales. But yeah, I'd love to learn that too.
Right, right. It's so shocking. It is so shocking. But
Yeah,
now,
I like
so
the idea.
the other question I wanted to ask you, like I know you had mentioned earlier about doing side hustle. So, what was like your primary form of work, like like the 9 to 5, and then what were your side hustles?
So at what point? When I was in debt or since starting my platform?
We could do both, like just to kind of get a before and after picture.
Okay, so when I was in there, I had one job that was my main source of income, and
Hmm.
then on the side, I was selling things. So I used to
Okay.
like sell everything from around the house, pick
Hmm.
stuff up from family members, resell that, pick stuff up from Facebook, resell that. So that's kind of the only side hustle I had at that
Okay.
time. But subsequently, it's so funny. I was telling my husband the other day, I've got like 18 different side hustles now. There's so many different ones, but yeah, I've got loads of them now.
Oh man, yo, that's a lot. That's a lot of side
I
hustles.
know.
So like,
I know a lot of them are like really, really small side hustles.
mhm,
I'd say my main side hustles you can say are the money coaching, the
okay,
content creation, and the YouTube and the
okay,
blog. So yeah, those are my
okay.
main four side hustles now.
Nah, yo, that's major. That's major. And what would you say if the content creators out there that are watching and they've been putting out free content? Let's say they've been doing it for 2, 3 years, and they're like, "Yo, I want to make some money. Like, how do I do that?" What would
Yeah.
you say is required for a person to make that transition?
Oh my gosh. Well, hopefully they've done the legwork to be able to make that transition because it's important to kind of create that audience online. So if you're in a position where you've know your niche, you know what you're making, you know what you're selling, you know who your audience is, and you've been creating content for them for a period of time. Hopefully, you've got an audience of a couple of £1,000s now, and you want to start monetizing that. So there's different ways you can do that. Brand partnerships, like brands want to get in front of your audience. If you have a niche audience, brands want to get in front of them. The problem they want to get in front of them. The problem is they don't know you're out there with that audience that they want to tap into. So you need to be proactive. They're not going to find you. They may find you, 1 out of 100 may come and find your page on Instagram. But realistically, most of them are out there trying to find content creators like yourself, but they just don't know you exist. So I would say be proactive and create that hit list. Write down a list. If you're in the finance space, for example, write a list of the 50 brands that you would love to collaborate with, brands that you believe in. Don't be one of those sleazy people that just, wants to sell everything and just has no integrity. Have some integrity with it. But a list of brands that you would like to collaborate with, that you believe in their products, their values align with yours, etc., and that you think will be a good fit for your audience, and literally start pitching to them. Get their marketing contacts, get their social media contacts. LinkedIn is so underrated and underused. You can find anybody on LinkedIn and actually find a direct contact and DM them. You'll be surprised. People don't use LinkedIn enough, especially social media influencers. Maybe like corporate settings, they use LinkedIn, but in terms of social media influencers, you'll be surprised. They probably don't get many DMs from people like you. So yeah, get that hit list together, write all the brands that you want to work with, and get that pitch email. And don't just do a blanket one to all of them because no one wants to be spammed. Literally take a few you're shaking your head, you're like, yeah, you're in agreement. Exactly. Take a few minutes to kind of look at the brand, look at what you do and how you think you can help them. You can bring value in terms of promoting their product to your audience. So maybe an idea or 2 or 3 of videos that you can do, a reel that you could do for them, and literally just pitch to them and tell them, yeah, I'm so and so from so and so place, and I think it'll be good if we can have a call about working together. These are my ideas. I think it'll be really good for you to kind of come on my platform because I have X, Y, and Z audience. Also, what I'd say to do if you haven't done is create a media kit as well. So you want to make this into a business, right? So come professionally, because what a lot of these brands probably get when they message influencers is just a text message back or like a DM message back. Yeah, these are my prices. But if you could go above and beyond and be like, have a professionally designed package, Canva, you can create the most amazing templates for dirt cheap or even free. So yeah, just do that and literally start pitching to these brands. You'll be surprised if you send 100 pitch emails, you will hear back from a few of them that want to work with you. And it's only a matter of time. Once you've got 1 or 2 brands that you've worked with, it's easier to then scale up and use that now as leverage for the next brand you approach with. You feel like, I worked with this brand and did this campaign. Look, I could do this for you.
Oh man, that is absolutely
Oh, that
amazing.
was ages.
Like right off the dome, you was just dropping so many gems. I love it. So, and I want to recap. So it sounds like the first thing that's important is having a sizable audience, right? Somebody that if you do get the brand deals, which we are hoping that they will, that you have somebody that they will actually be able to purchase or bite on these different offers that are being presented. So one is building up your audience. Then the second thing that you have mentioned is having like a hit list of the different brands that you want to work with, so that you know specifically who you want to target. And then the third thing is having a media kit that you put together so that you can be unique when you do reach out to these brands and kind of have all of the information that they need in one place so that you don't have to have like a bunch of emails going back and forth, answering all of these different questions.
Exactly.
So, and then after that, pretty much just coming up with a formula or a script, not one that you're going to send to everybody, but like having something personal in there, but then just having a message that you send out. And then the rest is just using the law of averages, sending out enough of those brand emails, and then somebody will bite. And here's the golden nugget that you dropped too, is utilizing LinkedIn. Like you mentioned, most people, especially content creators, aren't really hip to using LinkedIn at all.
No, exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you said all of what I said in like 1 minute.
No, but that's just me summing it up, just making sure I didn't miss nothing. But I love that.
It all up, to be honest.
I love that. So I'm curious, what do you think is an effective way for people to get those brand partnerships? Is it something specifically that they should mention in the emails? Is it something that brands are specifically looking for? What have you learned in your experience?
So I think that's why, going back to the audience, it's important that you have a niche audience, because it makes your case a lot stronger, and it's easier for them to know that you're a good fit. Because, for example, I don't know, L'Oreal or whatever, they probably wouldn't come and advertise on my page because it's not really a good fit with my brand, because I have a finance audience, and people know what to expect on my page. And if you look at the demographics and everything of my audience, it will fit with the finance brands rather than consumer brands like I said, Nike or L'Oreal or whatever. So I think having the niche audience is very, very important, because brands like to know that they're going to get return on their investment, right? So if you have a page where your audience is just sparse and it's just a random collection of people that is not centered around a specific topic, it's kind of like throwing mud at the wall and hoping something sticks. But if you have a more curated audience, they're more likely to want to work with you. And I think your engagement is also very important, and that's why you can't skip the process of building an audience. So it's one thing having followers, but do you have an engaged audience? Because followers don't mean anything if they're not actually engaging with you. And brands want to look at that. They want to know what your engagement rates are. They want to know that, okay, I have 50,000 followers and 10% of them are engaged, for example, as opposed to have 50,000 audience and only 1% of them are engaged, because that means they're not going to get as much bang for their bucks.
Right. That makes so much sense. And what it brings to mind is like, well, let me ask this question really.
Sure.
How important for you is it, like, building an email list? Like, do you think that that's important in addition to having that social media following?
Oh, absolutely. The value is in your list. Like, I remember someone saying that to me years ago, and I didn't realize it, but I realized it a year later when I was making no money still, because it's like, you can give all the content away for free on Instagram, but tomorrow somebody could hack your account and your Instagram account is gone and you're back to square one. You have no audience. Whereas if you've been taking time to divert people to your list, so in your link in bio, have some kind of a lead magnet, so something that you're giving away for free that is of value to that audience that you've curated, is going to help you build a list outside of Instagram. And what that means is you can kind of nurture that list offline, because on Instagram, the reality is people are not always going to be looking for your content. And the way Instagram algorithms are at the moment, you probably show up in maybe 1% or 5%, if you're lucky, of your audience's feeds. So they're not actually seeing your content as frequently probably as you're posting, unless they're really highly engaged. Whereas if you have that list, you know that if I'm emailing them once a week, they're getting that email to the inbox once a week. Now, if they open it, that's another question, but that works exactly on the side.
Right. It's like, but you got to start somewhere.
You know what I mean? You need to actually have a compelling subject line and good quality content for them to open it. But it's good to have that email list, because that's yours. You get to keep that. You own that. Whereas social media, Instagram, YouTube, all of that, we're at the mercy of all of those platforms.
Right, right. The other question, and it came back to me that I wanted to ask you, is
Sure.
about the niche. Like, how specific does the niche need to be, right? Because sometimes it can be like one of like a really drilled in niche, or sometimes it's just like, hey, you need to know what type of audience you're talking to. It can be a little bit broader. I just wanted to know, like, how niche down do you think a person needs to be in order to be able to accurately or no effectively monetize their content?
I prefer to have a solid, clear niche. I don't
Okay.
think it needs to be too drill down, but you can drill down further. So, like with
Mhm,
my niche, I work in the finance space, but I
mhm,
specifically focus on millennial women
mhm.
looking to stop impulse spending and kind of manage their money effectively. So that's a very, very niche.
Right.
Whereas there's other people that are just finance and they just talk about all things money. So it could be
Mhm,
investing, it could be crypto, it could be budgeting, it could be
mhm,
saving, it could be all encompassing. And then there's other pages that are mummy bloggers that talk about finance too. So they
mhm.
have the mummy blogger thing, plus they also have a bit of finance in there and kind of talk
Okay.
about how they're living frugally and managing their life as a mother and wife or whatever. So you can do both, but I
Mhm.
think it just depends on what your strategy is. So I think the
Right.
main thing is to have a strategy and a plan. So
Mhm,
then that way, once you have a plan, you can then work towards executing it. But I think if you kind of build the audience and then think, how am I going to now monetize it? It makes it a lot harder for you to do it
mhm.
that way. Whereas if you from the offset know that, I want to have a mummy page and I'm open
Right.
to work with all kind of brands, then the content that you create on that page is kind of going
Mhm.
to reflect that. So you might have 1 minute I'm doing my hair, next minute I'm shopping with the kids, next minute I'm showing you a bit of what I wear because
Right.
you've made it more a lifestyle page about you. And that's fine if you're happy to then work with
Mhm.
brands that do all different kind of content or brands that sell all different kind of things that
Right.
could be relevant for mums and fashion bloggers and all the rest of it. I think, yeah, you could do both, to be honest. I think
Mhm.
both can work, but I think the main thing is just being proactive about it and not sitting
Mhm.
back and waiting for opportunities to fall in your lap. Because
Right.
I think a lot of people just think, let me build my platform and then I'll be an influencer. And it's like, no, there's a bit more work that goes into it. And just sitting back, yes, you may get opportunities come your way, and yes, you'll get more as your platform grows, but
Mm.
it's still only touching the surface in terms of the opportunities that are out there versus what's going to land in your lap.
Right. That's a really great point. Yeah. You definitely can't just think that creating content will eventually bring money. And,
Mm.
like that's definitely one of the mistakes that I made is, just thinking that, oh man, if I do this long enough,
Hmm.
eventually it'll start to pay me. Like you actually have to be proactive in
Proactive.
determining how are you going to get paid? Like, is it going to be brand partnerships? Are you going to produce products? Are you going to sell
Hmm.
a service? Like, how are you going to do that? You have to have some
Exactly.
type of monetization plan. And that's one of the mistakes that I made early on. And like I would advise any of my content creators out there, if you know you eventually want to make money, it's best to have some type of monetization plan from the very
Hmm.
start. Because if you can
Absolutely.
build on that foundation, it'll help you. That doesn't mean that, out the gate, you making tens of thousands of dollars every month or whatever the
Mm.
case may be. But if you have a plan on how you're going to monetize your brand, your audience, it'll put you in a much better position.
No, absolutely. You do need to be strategic about it and treat it like a business because I think, yeah, it's been glamorized. I'm an influencer. I'm an
Right.
influencer, and yes, there probably is the anomalies that everything just lands in their lap, and they post a video, it goes viral, and they have 1 million followers overnight, or they go on, I don't know, Love Island or something, and they come out with a large following. That happens to the anomalies, but for the smaller micro or macro influencers, it's going to take work, and I think the more strategic you are with treating it as a business, the more success you'll achieve faster.
I agree with you completely. Yeah, you definitely have to be prepared and know that, hey, like it's not just gonna fall in your lap. And I
No,
think that that's the most important thing is realizing that the same way many people wake up and go to somebody's job and put in work for them, you're gonna have to do the same thing when it
exactly.
comes to running your own business, whether it's a side hustle or it's a full on business that you do full time. So realizing
No,
that is
definitely.
extremely extremely important. And
And
I'm curious.
oh, go
No,
on.
go ahead, please.
Now, I was just going to say, and just being consistent with it as well, because I think it's easy. People quit before the success actually comes because it's like, "Oh, I've been creating this content for 6 months, a year, nothing's happening." And it's like, no, it doesn't happen overnight. You're going to have
Right.
to keep showing up, being consistent and treating it, like
Hmm.
I said, as a job. And then,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I can relate. Like I've been in that position before, and the one thing that I would share that I've learned later is that if you're at that place where you be like, "Yo, I've been doing this for like a year or 2 years. I want to make money from this, and I'm not." Before you quit and say, "Hey, I'm going to go do something else," or "I'm just giving up," I would say go hire a coach or somebody that has done it, because that person will be able to see the things that have been like a blinder to you, and they will be able to point you in a direction of how you can begin monetizing the stuff that you've already been putting out, or at least the new stuff that you're putting out, how to do it in a way strategically where you can start getting paid for it. So if you haven't professionally hired somebody to help you with that, let that be the last step you take before you before you quit. And I promise you, if you do that, more than likely you're not going to quit.
You're not going to quit.
That person,
absolutely.
Yep, they're going to turn it around and you'll be like, oh man, this is all I had to do. It's just, you never know. For some people, they figure it out. Right? No, say that again. I cut you off. I apologize.
Oh no, I actually cut you off. But no, I said you don't know what you don't know. So that's the problem.
Right. That's the key. That's the key right there. Yeah. Oh man, this discussion is so good. The one thing that I wanted to ask you, in your experience, was the first monetization that you had for your content. Was it the brand deals? Was it the coaching? Like, what was the first thing that you did to monetize?
Do you know what? Yeah, my first ever income came from affiliate, and it was Amazon associates. It was like 30 something p, right?
Yeah.
So that's like cents in right. It's like literally nothing.
Right.
But the way I was rejoicing was like I'd won the lottery. I was like, oh my gosh, it worked. It worked. It was like the proof of concept that I needed. Like, oh wow, this thing is real. That was from my blog, and I got AdSense affiliate income from Amazon. I mean, I didn't get the money because you have to make like 20 pounds.
But you realize like, hold on, like I can actually make money. It was a proof of concept, really, right?
Yeah. It was. I couldn't believe it. I was like, someone's bought something using my affiliate link. It was crazy. And it was in one of my random blog posts. And it was just a proof of concept because I've been reading all these blogs about make money blogging and all of those things, but it wasn't translating into my life at that time. So I was like, okay, I mean, I've written all these blogs. I have at that time probably had about 30, 40 blogs on my posts on my blog, and I hadn't made anything. And then, I made that first affiliate sale. Before that though, I'd been kicked out of the Amazon affiliate scheme because I had to make the threshold. Yeah, because you have to make your first sale like within 3 months or something. Otherwise, they kick you out. So I had to reapply, and I had to re-add all the links to all my blogs. So it's a journey. And that's what people need to realize. It's not going to be an overnight thing. Like, you have to be willing to keep putting in the work and take those setbacks and keep going. But that was my first ever money that I made. And it was like,
and that's real. Like affiliate marketing is, it can definitely get a person foot in the door. Like for some people, it's just that first proof of concept. But for some people, they build a large portion of their business off of affiliate marketing. Like I actually have a guest that's going to be coming on to talk about that, like he does. So I'm really excited to hear like how he's made it work on like a larger scale.
Yeah.
But to your point, the first proof of concept that I had was from affiliate marketing too.
Oh, no way.
If it was Amazon or the Audible, it was one of those. Like I used to have on my website, I used to have like a resource page, and like I just said, like that's where I was like, hold on, like somebody actually must have clicked one of those links, and it paid. I think the second time I got like some monetization, some money from what I was doing was when I was on YouTube years ago. Like I had got some money from AdSense, and I was like, okay, so like people can't really get paid from YouTube, like so. Don't quit. That's what I tell people. Like it's definitely possible, but I think in order for it to be something that's consistent and will pay you the type of money that you want to get, you got to be consistent. You have to have a plan on how you're going to do it. So yeah, man, that's amazing. And I really appreciate you for sharing that. One of the other things that I wanted to know is along your business, like what tools have helped you? What are some things that you use on a daily basis with your business?
Oh, tools. I'd say Canva. I mentioned Canva before. I love Canva. Like, I pay like $100 and something for the year, and I use it to create like 90% of my content. So I use it for my Instagram posts, or my thumbnails, for my YouTube videos. It's just even my media kit that I mentioned earlier. I use that I use Canva to design that as well. So Canva. If you don't have it and you're a content creator, you're missing out.
Go get that.
Go get it. Yeah, because it's so good. So Canva's a tool that I love using. Do you know what? I use Google Sheets. So a lot of my stuff is on Google Sheets. I use that for my budgeting. So
that's what I was thinking, budgeting. That's perfect.
Same way I budget my personal finances, I also budget for the business finances. So I use Google Sheets and other tools. Facebook. I use the Facebook Business Suite. So I use that for scheduling Instagram content. and Facebook posts, that was a game changer for me, because before I was having to post them manually because I had Hootsuite and they started charging a ridiculous amount for Hootsuite. It's not worth it.
Yeah. It's like, yo, it's just a scheduling platform.
I was like, did I miss something? Did they change what they do? I don't understand how you went from being free to like thousands and thousands of pounds every year. So yeah, I had to move on from that. And yeah, now I use Facebook Business to schedule it. But yeah, those are the tools predominantly that I use. Also, what do I use for editing? LumaFusion. So that's what I use for all my video editing. So it's a good tool. And yeah, there's a new one that I'm about to start using, but I don't know the name of it, which is not helpful. It's for live streaming.
Okay.
But it's supposed to, like, my husband's one that told me about it. It's supposed to be really, really good. It begins with O. I can't remember the name of it. OBS. Have you heard of it?
Oh yeah, OBS. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I'm familiar. Yep. You can do live streaming on there. Yeah. That's dope. That's dope. Yo, I love it. Yo, you're putting in so much work. And I appreciate you because you've shared so much with our listeners and me today. I think it's really important for our content creators out there to know that you can begin to monetize. You can start a side hustle, start a business, and be able to, generate some cash. As we talked about, overcoming that imposter syndrome, thinking that you can't do it or you're not qualified. The sooner that you can address that, I think you gave some really great tips on how to do that. And then dealing with the apprehension of charging for your services, charging for what you're worth. And you gave us some gems on how to get over that hurdle and start making some cash. The other thing that I wanted to know, like you've mentioned your husband throughout, like how has him in your corner helped you along your journey?
Oh, I can't even quantify it. Like literally, he's my biggest cheerleader. Like, because he was seeing the potential of me long before I saw it in myself. So with the coaching or even starting the YouTube channel, all of those things, I shied away from starting YouTube for a whole year. When I launched my blog, I was supposed to launch it with a YouTube channel, but I didn't do it. It took another year before I finally came on YouTube. And he was just there, like literally like, no, you could do it, babe. You could do it. Like, you've got so much value to bring. And yeah, he's just always like encouraging me and stuff. So that definitely really helps.
That's amazing. Yo, having people in our corner that are supporting us is key, especially when you're talking about transition, even starting content creation, right? A lot of people don't get much support when all they're doing is creating content. And then when it comes to starting a business outside of working for somebody, you got to deal with people doubting you on that front. Like, oh man, I don't know, is that really going to be able to produce what you need to produce? So having your husband in your corner, that's such a blessing, Nice. And one other thing that I think is really important is our daily habits. Are there things that you do on the daily basis that you feel attribute to your success, both in life and business?
Prayer, I'd say.
Yes.
Definitely. I couldn't do it all in my own strength. So definitely my faith helps me a lot. So I'd say, the daily devotion helps me. I think writing things down. So here I am, my notepad and pen. I'm always literally writing things down. My husband's always like, you could just use like Trello and all of these things. I'm like, no, pen and paper. So I like to write everything down. So that helps me, like every morning, writing my to-do list. What are the key priorities? What would I be happy achieving today? Because the reality is I always have 100 things on my to-do list, but I just tick off the most important ones, and then the rest of them can kind of wait until another day. So I think
No, go ahead. I apologize. I didn't even cut you off.
Oh no, I was going to say that habit helps me a lot. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, and I was actually going to follow up about that. A lot of people have a lot of things on their to-do list. What does it look like for you when you determine what's most important, what should get done first? What does that process look like for you?
It's what's going to move the needle the most. So before I say before because I still have these issues now, right? But I'm cognizant of them.
We're working, right? We're working through it.
I know it sounds perfect. I'm a work in progress. Yeah. But I think what helps me is picking the things that move the needle the most. So I've been guilty in the past of kind of being busy, but not being productive. So it's like I'm just doing a load of stuff, but I'm not getting any further. So it's like, actually, I could spend, I don't know, 10 hours editing this video. That's me, doing something. And I do need to edit this video. Or I could spend 2 hours editing it and actually spend another 2 hours emailing prospective clients. That's going to move the needle faster because now I've got the opportunity to make more money from these people that I'm reaching out to, as opposed to spending all my time editing a video that may or may not actually, do well on YouTube. So it's like really focusing on the things that are the highest priority and are going to have the most impact and give me the most results is what I try to prioritize now.
Yeah, and that's key.
I love creating content. Oh, sorry, I was just going to say I love creating content. Yeah, that's fun for me. I can literally spend an hour and a half on one Instagram post. That's not the best use of my time. So it's like, it's trying to prioritize my time better.
Yeah, enjoying it is so key, right? Because I think it's one thing to know that we can make money from creating content and, being able to leapfrog, start a business or a side hustle from it. But I think we have to be really careful if we're doing it just for that purpose. Because like you mentioned, enjoying what we do is really part of it. I think that's what makes it so fulfilling is that I actually get paid to do something that I enjoy doing. Like, because when you look at most people, that's not their story. Like most people, they get up and go to work and they're not pleased. They're not like, yeah, I can't wait to get in there.
Exactly.
But like when you enjoy waking up, creating content, helping out people, and then you get paid, it's like, yo, that's just like the cherry on top.
Exactly. No, that's definitely true. And yeah, like that's why I spent so long doing it for free. I enjoy work. I just genuinely enjoy seeing people have those transformation in their finances. So for me, that's payment in itself, but I'll take the money too. But do you know what I mean? It's so rewarded.
It's a win-win when you love doing it and you get paid. Yeah, that's what it's
amazing.
About. Yes. Oh my goodness. I've enjoyed this discussion so much. One of the things I like to do before we wrap up, I have a fun little segment that I like to have with my guests called Pick 3, where I'm going to give you the opportunity to pick 3 random numbers, and there's going to be a question associated to each of those numbers. So what you have to do, pick your first number between 1 and 16.
6.
Okay, so 6. Number 6, here's your question. If you could have any skill or any superpower to aid you in business, what would it be?
I think, any skill. You see a skill and superpower. Can I give you one of
either or? It's totally up to you. Like any skill or superpower that you feel like would aid you in business. Which one would it be?
I think skill would be selling. I wish I was a better salesperson for sure.
Yeah. And I don't know if you read this book, but the last guy that I was recording with, my man Jake Jackson, he had shared a book on sales called Cashvertising. Have you read that or heard about that book?
Never heard of that one. That's 2 books you've told me now.
Yes, I would definitely add that because especially if you want to learn how to sell. And then there's a book that I'm reading on sales, and it's called How to Sell Anything to Anybody. And I believe the author's name is Joe Girard.
I feel like I've heard of that book, How to Sell Anything to Anybody. Thanks.
Yeah, so those two, now that I know that that's the skill you want to acquire, like there go 2 books that should be able to help you with that. Because I'm with you. That's a skill that I'm trying to learn too, because that's one of those money-making skills that if you know how to sell, like you'll never be broke. Like
exactly.
Everybody is in need of somebody to sell their product. People can create the product, they can create the service, but then they may not know how to effectively sell
it, right? Yeah, exactly.
So what's your second number between 1 and 16? 12. Okay. So that question is, what is a quote or a mantra that you live by or that you use for motivation?
Oh, that's a good question. A quote or mantra that I live by. Oh my gosh. It's thinking of a good one.
Yeah, take your time. No rush.
No, that's a lie. I was gonna say a cliche one, but I don't actually live by that. Wait. Okay, I'll go with this one.
Okay.
Work hard, play hard.
Oh, I like that. So I'm curious. I know how you work hard. How do you play hard? What does that look like for you? How do you enjoy yourself?
Oh, again, I was going to tell another lie. I was going to say I play netball, but I don't. I haven't played in many years. I would like to, in theory. No, I like to socialize. I'm a social butterfly. So for me, play hard looks like spending time with family, friends, going out to not expensive places to eat, like, finding good deals and going.
That's the money coaching you right there.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I like to have a good time, but on a budget. So yeah. Right. In fact, that is my mantra: live your best life on a budget. So
I like that. Yeah. That's good. Yo, so many gems. I'm learning so much from you today. I love it. So what's your last number between 1 and 16?
I had a different number. Now I'm changing it. I want to hear all the questions. Number 1.
Number 1. The question is, what is a book that has had a great impact on the way that you approach either life or business?
Oh, Do you know what? Rich Dad Poor Dad, but I feel like that's so cliche, but it's such an excellent book. Like that literally changed my mindset around money. I didn't know anything about the concept of not working for money, but letting money work for you. I learned that in that book, because before that, I didn't even know that that was a thing. I just thought you get a 9 to 5 job, you get paid, and then you manage that money. So the idea of actually being able to generate money and then make that money make you more money, I learned that all in that book. So definitely fantastic book. And another one, I know you said one book, but I'll give you a second one quickly. Is Rich Dad Poor Dad, Richest Man in Babylon. That's another great book that I love.
Oh man, yeah, I love that book. The reason why I love that book is how it shares those financial principles in parable form.
Yes,
Like I feel like it just clicks a lot more. And
exactly.
yeah, like both of those are excellent books. If you guys watching haven't read either of them, I highly recommend both of those books. They're game changers for sure. So,
Absolute game changers. Yeah, if you need to read any money books, those are 2 ones to start with. And a third one that I'll throw in for free, because I always
I love
mention
it.
this book to everybody, is Your Money or Your Life by Vicky Robin. Very,
I
very
haven't.
good
Now
book.
that's one I haven't read.
You see,
I'm gonna have
write
to
that
check
one
that one
down.
out.
It's a brilliant book. Yeah, Your Money or Your Life. It talks all about money mindset and our relationship with money, and the fact that we basically, a lot of people say they value their time, but actually they're valuing money more because they just prioritize things that mean that they have to exchange more of their time for money rather than having time to do things that are important to them. But it's just that's a life-changing book. So
Oh man, I'm gonna have to check that one out. Yeah, thank you. Like, yo, I appreciate you for sharing that. Oh man. Yo, this has been so good. So before we wrap up, I just want to hand the mic over to you. Are there any questions that you'd like to ask me, or any last or closing words you'd like to leave our audience with?
Oh, yes. Let me ask you a question, put you on the spot. So what has been your biggest business mistake that you've ever made? Like biggest, most costly mistake? That'll be my first question.
I would say I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, which is I think the biggest mistake that I made is being not how do I phrase this? Is not recognizing that I could have monetized a lot sooner than I did. So I think if I could simplify that, is just not having a plan for monetization. I just had I had a goal, I had a hope, I had a wish, but I didn't have a plan. Right? I think that's the biggest mistake that I made, is that okay, I'm blogging and I want to make money from blogging, but I don't have a plan. Okay, I'm doing YouTube. I want to make money from YouTube, but I don't have a plan. Oh, I'm podcasting. I want to make money from podcasting, but I don't have a plan. So like that to me is the biggest mistake that I've made, and what I've learned to correct over, and for me is fresh. Like the last 2 years is when I started to recognize like, oh man, like I've been wanting to get paid from creating content, but I just realized that, oh, I actually needed to have a plan on how to be able to do that
How do I do
effectively.
that?
So that to me is the biggest mistake that I made, is wanting to make money, but having no plan in place of how to do that.
Yeah. And going back to the question that you asked me at the beginning, actually, because I'm
Yes.
interested to hear your thoughts on it. What does success mean to you, or what's your
Oh
definition?
man, that is a great question. It like I feel like, and I got to be completely transparent and honest about
Sure.
this, right? So there's still monetary goals and metrics that I haven't hit. So to a certain extent, I'm still in a place where I want to check certain boxes, and I feel like checking certain boxes will be a form of success. But this is the caveat to that. I know that those things aren't going to ultimately like bring me happiness. I know that those things aren't true success, but I still feel like something is missing if I haven't done those things, because I know that I'm capable of doing it. So for me, success, if I can just be simplify it, is proving to myself that I can do the things that I know I'm capable of doing. And for me now, that has to do with certain monetary things that I want to do. Like I'm still going through that journey of becoming debt free. So, I know that I'm capable of doing that. I know I'm capable of earning certain amounts of money a year. And for me, I'm still in pursuit of being able to check off those boxes, not so much to say, oh, I got this or I did that, but to say, I knew I was capable of doing it. And now I've proven it through the work that I put in and the things that I've been doing as I've been working at it. So for me, that's the way that I would define it now, today in
Yeah.
2022.
No, I love that. Thank you. Thanks for your
Yeah,
um.
yeah, those are
honesty.
good questions. Any
Yeah, I
others?
know it is. Yeah, like you can feel how I felt when you put me on the spot, but no, it's good.
That's fair. Yo, it's only fair. It's only fair. Any
Yeah.
other questions?
Oh, I could go on. So let's stop there because
Okay. Yo, I've learned to respect when people do that, because I used to be like, no, go ahead and ask the question. And then it'll be a question that, oh yeah, I probably should have stopped there. So I've learned, like, when people say, yo, you should stop here, like, I've learned to be like, okay, I'm gonna accept that. I'm gonna stop right here and I'm not gonna push.
No,
But
I
I
can
do want you
definitely
to
tell.
know how much I've enjoyed today's conversation. And you have to let everybody know how can they get in contact with you, how can they support you, and if there's anything that they should, check out, go buy, definitely let them know how they can do that.
Okay, sure. So if you want to follow me, I'm over on Instagram at Tolu Frimpong. I'm also on YouTube, Tolu Frimpong, and I have a blog, Tolu Frimpong. So it's not going to be hard to find me. If you need help with your budgeting, personal finances, you want to create the perfect money management system, and you need help from a coach or somebody to kind of champion you and encourage you on that journey, then definitely hit me up and we can have that conversation. I could definitely help you come up with a plan and help you feel more confident with managing your finances moving forward.
Oh, I love it. And the key word you use there is plan.
Mhm.
That's the key. You got to have a
Yes,
plan, whether it's
absolutely.
budgeting, monetizing, whatever it is, having the proper plan in place is so
Mhm.
key. And Tolu, I just want to thank you so much again for coming on, joining us on the podcast. If you're ever interested in coming back on, you have an open invitation. It would be an absolute
Oh
pleasure
yeah, I
and an
would love
honor to
to.
have you back on.
No, thank you, Jay. It's been brilliant chatting to you. Really enjoyed our conversation. So
Oh,
thanks for having
yeah.
me on.
Oh, man, I appreciate it. I've enjoyed you so much. And I just want to say thank you again for everything that you shared with us today.
No, thank you. Bye.